So I want to talk to you in this video about the naming hydrocarbons. So let's start with different aliphatic hydrocarbons. So we know that the aliphatic hydrocarbons are three classes: alkanes, alkenes, and alkyne. So you will always, in the name, you will find a prefix and a suffix. So the suffix here refer to the category or the class of the aliphatic hydrocarbon. So when you have alkanes, you will always have the suffix "ane". So methane, ethane, propane. So you will always have the suffix "ane", and this refers to that all the bonds are single bonds. It's an alkane. And then for the alkenes, you will have the suffix "ene", E-N-E. So we call it ethene, propene, butene. So we will always have the suffix "ene". But that means there is only one double bond. And then we have the third one, which is the alkynes. So it's called "ine", which is the YNE. So YNE is alkyne, and this means there is one triple bond. This is for the category of alkynes. So alkenes are all single bonds. There is no double bond. Alkenes, there is double bond, and alkyne, there is the triple bond. So let's start with alkane. So alkanes are the saturated hydrocarbons, as we know. They only contain single bonds. All the bonds are covalent bonds. So it has only carbon and hydrogen. So there are only single bonds between carbon and hydrogen atoms. All the carbon atoms have the hybridization of an sp3. So sp3 hybrid orbitals. Don't worry much if you don't remember what are the different hybridization, because I will post another video about hybridization. So you can watch this video to remember about the different hybridization. So the hybridization of the carbon atoms, all carbon atoms in alkanes are sp3. And each carbon here is bonded to four different atoms. And the four different atoms can be either one carbon and three hydrogens. So one carbon here, like here, carbon attached to carbon, and each carbon has three hydrogens. Or it can be simply for the simplest one, which is methane, is all hydrogen, four hydrogens. Or for other alkanes, you can have carbon can be like this one. Here it's attached to two carbons and two hydrogens. So you will always end up with a compound, the alkane. All the carbon will have four different connections. So what about the prefix of the and the prefix is the same for alkane, alkene, or alkyne. Okay, so the prefix refers to the number of the carbon in the straight chain. So you have, if you have only one carbon, this is called methane, like this one. So it has only one carbon, so it's called meth. So the prefix meth, and then we know the suffix ane, so we end up with methane. If we have two carbons, then it's called ethane. So like this one, eth, and then ane, so it's ethane. Three carbons, it's propane. Four, it's butane. Five, pentane. Six, hexane, heptane, and then you can carry on depending on the number of the carbons. So you need to memorize these prefixes so you can name your compound. Of course, there's a very long number of prefixes, and these prefixes, you cannot memorize all of them, but the main ones up until 10 carbon atoms, you should be able to memorize these ones. So if you have a compound with an alkyl substituent, the one than the previous video we referred to as an R. So if you remember, for alkyl halides, for example, we wrote it as an R and X. We said the X can be any halide like chloride, fluoride, bromide, or iodide. So this R is called the alkyl. substituent. So how to name an alkyl substituent? We would name an alkyl substituent by putting the suffix "-il". So methyl, so it's called methyl. This is CH3, and there is a bond here will be attached to the functional group. If it's an ethyl group, then it's called eth, and then ethyl, so it's going to be an "-il" at the end. Propyl, butyl if it's 4 carbons, pentyl if it's 5, and hexyl if it's 6. So this is for the linear ones. What about the branched one? So we can have some branched alkane as well. So branched alkyl substituent, we can also have something branched. So now the bond will not be with the first carbon on the chain, but maybe with one in the middle, like for this propyl here, instead of having the substituent here, okay, we're going to have it here on the second carbon. So if it's a propyl, propyl is the one with 3 carbons, so 1, 2, 3, but the connection here was the second carbon. This is will be called isopropyl. If it's a butyl with 4 carbons and the 1, 2, 3, and 4, even though this is it's not in the long chain, okay, so but it's still going to be called isobutyl. We can name it a different way, and we will see in the next video how to name branched alkanes. So this can be called isobutyl as one name, this whole alkyl substituent. We also have what's called secondary butyl. So what is the difference between secondary butyl and isobutyl? Isobutyl here in the carbon number 2 here, you're going to find two methyl groups. In the secondary butyl, you find here in the carbon here attached, there is one ethyl and one methyl. So it's more like a straight chain here and the connection with the second carbon. There is also the tertiary butyl. The tertiary butyl is the one, the carbon in the center here is attached to 3 methyl group, and then the other bond will be the attached to the carbon in the center. So this is called the tertiary butyl. Okay, so and then we have the benzene ring. So it's called, for example, when we have benzene and we have this group attached to benzene, this is will be called isopropyl benzene. So this is a benzene, this is a parent compound, and this is alkyl substituent. It's an isopropyl, 1, 2, 3 carbons, and the connection in the middle. So this is called an isopropyl benzene. In the next video, I'm going to talk to you about how to name different branched alkyl compounds.